Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are live with, yet again, another episode of Empire State of Baseball. This is episode number 88 on June 10th of the year 2024, airing on Instagram, X, YouTube, and powered by StreamYard. Well, gentlemen, I know due to various reasons, there was a duo last week, an old school Savages in the Bronx type show, but we're back to our typical quartet on this fine Monday evening. Really a beautiful weather streak in the tri-state area. Last week was gorgeous. This week's looking just as great. So I know at least myself, I was able to get a beach day in this past weekend and really enjoying the beautiful weather. But Joe, I'll toss it over to you. How are you feeling on this fine night?
Feeling good. You know, had a little bout with the old subway sickness as I have started a new career and a new path. I have to go into the city a couple times. And, man, if you haven't been in the city a while and you start riding that subway again, something's bound to find you and latch on to you. So dealt with a little bit of fever, a little bit of a sinus infection, a little bum fever is what I like to call it. So, but we're back healthy. We're back here this week, and we're ready to rock and roll.
Yes, sir. We're back. Our quartet, as Corey Favs alluded to before, so it was good to have our full team. Tom and I did have a lot of fun throwing it back to the old Savages of the Bronx on Twitch days. But we are back at a full capacity, like the Yankees almost, with Juan Soto back in the lineup, but Aaron Judge taking the day off for the first time in the 2024 campaign. Thomas, how are we doing today on this Monday?
We're doing good. Yeah, what a weekend we're going to get into it with the Yankees Dodgers and the hype that went into that weekend. And I mean, for the most part, those games, I think, kind of lived up to it. Saturday was a bit of a dud, one way or the other. Is you don't want a blowout game, especially if Yankees are going to lose. But it was a good weekend. Corey's right. Weather's been good. Hopefully that just continues and we roll into the summer here.
So we are at 34 people already in the building. We're only 2 minutes into the damn thing. And like I always like to do, let's shout out some members of our chat. We have Jacob Petruzzi in the building. Jacob always the first one to show up. He's the one like waiting at the GameStop door for Call of Duty to have its midnight release. I know Jacob was that guy back in the day. Jacob's in the house. We got Hitman over from Boogie Nights. Shout out to Hitman. We got Mike Parziali, one of the best moderators in the business. We got Dane Huber over at NYY Underground and Yankees Farm. Check this out, guys. Yankees Farm just got a follow by none other than Scott Boras the other day. So Yankees Farm not only providing a great site to catch the latest and greatest with the Yankee prospects, but a service to Scott Boras here, who'll be looking out for those young players as well. So cool stuff over there by Dane and Lois over Yankees Farm. We got Sierra in the building. Sierra, the newest part of the Empire State of Baseball family, as Extra Innings makes his return tonight on Spaces, and Sierra will be in the co-hosting chair later on tonight. So welcome to Team Sierra. Jack Esposito in the building. We got Christy Evis over at Yankees Pod. We got Yuki Matsui from the San Diego Padres. Wow. Yuki,
is that the real Yuki Matsui?
No way. But shout out to Yuki. We have Sabine in the house. So a lot of great interaction already to start things off. We got 40 people in the house, 4 minutes in. Corey Favs, though, what kind of show are we putting on for our 40-plus here at Empire State of Baseball?
Oh, listen, it's going to be a absolutely phenomenal show tonight. And again, we're live on Instagram and X, but you got to go to YouTube. All right. If you want to really watch this whole show, and we got a great show to give to you tonight, but YouTube is our preferred app. I've watched it. I watched it last week a little bit. I watched the replay. I think the quality is so much better. If you're on Instagram, you can't really interact with us via comments. We have to check that afterwards. YouTube, everything comes up live. We'll pull up your comments. Go ahead, interact with us. You'll get all our shorts. Everything's there. The full experience on YouTube. So please go ahead. 328 subscribers on YouTube and growing. And again, listen, you're going to get the whole show on YouTube. So go ahead and follow us there.
And that show tonight includes the Empire Express. We'll get into it. Yankees and Mets. A creator spotlight makes a return after a couple of weeks off. And Anthony Rivera over at Subway to Shea and Morning Brew Sports, the Mets Evening Brew, will join us on later on tonight. We got the New York Strike Exchange, Sierra's favorite bit here. Every other week, we do our bi-weekly New York exclusive player rankings. We got our Bulls and Bears later on tonight and a player to be named later to end tonight's show. But let's kick things off with our Empire Express bit. And we're going to talk about the New York Yankees for a few. Mr. Thomas Wospil. It was an interesting weekend series, a box office matchup between the Los Angeles Dodgers and the New York Yankees. And the Yankees were going in empty-handed from when we were talking about the main guy in right field who batted second for all these games thus far in this 2024 season. That is, of course, the bad man Juan Soto. And Soto's presence was certainly missed in this weekend series, especially for those first two games. But what are your thoughts on this New York Yankees team as of late?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because the big offseason move was bringing in Juan Soto, and just how quickly the lineup felt like the 2023 Yankees without Juan Soto. Go figure. You don't have one of the best players in baseball in the lineup. The lineup feels a lot different, and it did. That first game, it felt like they just couldn't get anything going at all. Second game, got a bit of the same, a little more offense, but not really. And then the third game, they were able to kind of to click. So that was nice to see. It was a fun series. It was a good series for baseball overall. I think you can't overreact to it, and it's easy to say that when you lose, don't overreact. I'm sure if the Yankees would have won the series, swept or won 2 out of 3, we'd feel better. But I don't think you would just say like, well, it might as well just give us the World Series at this point because it's over at that point. There we go. Hey, Lauren, join in here. So yeah, I think it was good. It was good for baseball. It was a lot of fun. And, we move on and we go against another really good team out in Kansas City. Soto back in the lineup tonight. Judge having an off day. Just a schedule, not a schedule, just giving him a day. And yeah, let's just keep it rolling. Let's get back to our winning ways, winning series, get the pitching going, offense going, all that good stuff.
Absolutely. And once again, I love to pull up the numbers versus the rest of the league here. First, it's still an on-base, OPS, runs scored, team ERA, and batting average against on the pitching side of the house. They were first in those categories last week as well. Across baseball, OPS, ERA, and batting average against, they do lead across the game itself. The Yankees sit at 2.5 games above the Orioles as they enter play against the Kansas City Royals, a 4-game set in Kansas City. Seth Lugo on the bump, opposing Carlos Rodon. Again, there's not really much more you can say about this Yankees team. And I know there was how can I say this? There was a lot of doom and gloom on Thursday night going into Friday morning with the status unknown about Juan Soto. A lot of fans had wrote off the season already. That's it. Forearm injury. We've seen these elbow/forearm injuries over the past couple of months. He's done. It's Jason Dominguez 2.0.
It sounded like it though. It was everything. It was everything the same as Dominguez, so it was fair.
Oh, it was bad. It was so bad, and no one was allowing any reports to leak out. And here I was sitting here listen, I can't freak out until a report comes out here.
Yeah.
Until we get something official from the team or from somebody's got to come out with something before I lose my freaking mind. But even with Soto out for the minimum time, he's back in the lineup today. Yeah, his presence is sorely missed. And I think that is more of anything a message sent to the front office saying, give this guy a blank check, because without him, it's going to be a tough go around with this lineup. The lineup looks, not surprisingly, the lineup looks a lot empty, especially when you look at that middle to bottom part of it. It's really been a Volpe, Soto, Judge show. And I do grow concerned about the rest of this batting order. And I heard a lot of this too. I don't know if you saw this, Tom, Joe, Corey. Once you get through the Dodgers' first 3 in the lineup, it should be easy pickings. Absolutely not, because who killed the Yankees all week? Won the National League Player of the Week this past week. Teoscar Hernandez.
Yeah, Hernandez.
Will Smith is still a quality player.
Yeah.
Max Muncy's on the shelf, but he'll be back in this lineup soon. So if anything, if you get past the first 3 or 4 batters of the Yankees, you might have an easy go around. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, so I mean, listen, anytime you hear forearm, your immediate reaction is panic, regardless of we saw it to Jason Dominguez, we saw it to Bryce Harper. We see that affect players, particularly outfielders, at a higher level. Soto's going to DH for tonight. I'm sure he might even DH tomorrow or the next game. At the moment, it looks like he's going to be fine. At the moment, it looks like it's something that they can work through and play through. You're holding your breath a little bit until he gets back into the outfield for a few games in a row. You still have to worry about that flaring up again. I'm not concerned with it. If they really thought it was a concern, they would have said, okay, 10-day IL stint. Let's keep him completely off that arm for 10 days, and we go from there. They didn't do that. He was out the weekend, not a big deal. But I think it does show the Yankee fan and the Yankee kingdom, as you will, that there is a little bit of nervousness with the Yankees. There's that little question mark that is the only thing that's concerning. Rich, you posed this question on Twitter before. Is there any concern as a Yankee fan? You shouldn't be concerned now, but there's going to be that little doubt of concern that if it's not Soto and Judge every single day in the lineup back to back, this Yankee team is vulnerable. And that I believe that is 100% the case. I don't have a reason to think that either of them at this particular point in time are going to miss any significant time. However, if one of them misses significant time, the Yankees are going to be in trouble because this team is built around these two, not superstars, megastars. And that's what they are. And I got to give credit to Aaron Judge. We're going to talk about him later. What he's done in the last month is unfriggin' believable.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's insane. I mean, he's hit 20 homers in 40 games. That's an unbelievable pace. So if these two guys, if either of them go down, the Yankees are going to have big problems. They're going to be playing a lot of low-scoring games because right now the rest of the lineup isn't picking it up, but the rest of the lineup doesn't need to with those two guys there.
No, those two guys can really carry a team.
Yeah, I was gonna say the thing is though, like when those guys, it seems like when this offense is rolling, the rest of them are rolling as well. It's when you have to put guys in positions in the lineup that they haven't been this year. You know, taking Verdugo out of the 4 spot into the 2 spot, it's just not quite the same thing. If you know, once people get the pitcher gets to him after the gauntlet of Judge and Soto, there's usually guys on base. Verdugo can just kind of put a ball in play, get an RBI. It's different in that 2 hole. Then I think everyone else, like the lineup, really is cyclical like that. You know, they do have issues. We talked a lot about them last year, and I think those really showed. Rich and I said we were concerned with the first and second baseman of the Yankees, and they did not necessarily have a great week going into this. So I don't know. It's a good team. It's a team that needs to improve. The question I think is going to be is that Yankees are going to have some tough questions going into the trade deadline because Rizzo is a popular Yankee, I think, in that clubhouse. Gleyber Torres has been here for so long. But so can you replace them on this team? Can you say, listen, you know, Gleyber, thanks. You've been great at times. You struggled at times, but we're going to go out and get a second baseman. Or Rizzo, listen, we're going out. We got to get someone who can really play first or a guy to play third and move DJ around. Like that's going to be some questions the Yankees are going to have to answer in the next 6 weeks.
If I may there, because I've had that conversation a lot too. When it comes to Anthony Rizzo, yes, there can be a potential replacement, whether that's internally or externally. Internally, you look at obviously the major league counterpart, DJ LeMahieu. I think the Yankees need to get to a point where you cannot have LeMahieu, Rizzo, Torres, and Stanton in the same lineup. And I think one way you can cheat from that happening is splitting time between Rizzo and LeMahieu to play first base. I mean, splitting time between a 35-year-old or almost 35-year-old and an almost 36-year-old, rather than having them on the corners, is not sustainable for your offense nor your defense. Wow. So I think that's a potential. That could be a possibility for the Yankees to cheat a bit, leave a guy off their lineup, but not necessarily go for a first baseman. And obviously, if you look at the minors,
then you need a third baseman.
There's a lot of talk between Ben Rice, who just got the call at AAA, who's splitting time between catcher and first base, already tearing it up in Scranton. TJ Rumfield's got an amazing glove also with the Scranton Rail Riders. So there are some internal options. And at third base, yes, Thomas, I think third base if you want to go down that route, now you need to shore up third base somehow and look where, what that market's looking like. And I can tell you right now, that market's a lot better than what's at second base. Second base, you're stuck. Gleyber Torres is your second baseman. No,
except DJ can also play second.
Yeah, I get it, but DJ LeMahieu's
you don't want to play him
old and he's in the twilight of his career. And at this point, when they're going right, Gleyber Torres is the better player. So you just have to hope between now, June 10th, through the rest of this season, in a contract year where Gleyber Torres is trying to make bank, that he shows up. He stops making these bonehead plays where he has to think about it, and he ends up gaffing a ball. Like, Gleyber's gotten a lot of hate and vitriol from Yankee fans. A lot of it really isn't. I think there's a lot of pressure put on this player since they gave him the shortstop position back in 2021, which they should have never done. And ever since that point, he's been scrutinized. He's been scrutinized by the fan base.
Well, in all fairness, Gleyber's deserved it this year. I mean, the guy's coming off basically his second best season. He had a lot of doubters the past few years, well-deserved doubters. We talk about him tinkering with his swing and this and that. He leads second baseman in errors. He's batting 200. He's in a contract year. All the pressure on him for the first time. He doesn't have to be Robin to Batman and Judge. This team was built with Judge and Gleyber before Soto came along as the top two guys. For the first time in Gleyber's life, the pressure is taken off of him. He's an afterthought in this lineup because Soto is taking all the attention away from him. And now he's had even more. It feels like he's playing with even more pressure under the contract year. From the outside looking in, Gleyber's time as a Yankee is over. They're going to let him walk.
They're going to have to let him walk. If they sign Soto, they have to let him walk.
Headache.
They're not going to pay him.
And essentially, it's not like he's a bad guy or anything. It's just the volatility in what you get out of him day to day drives you insane. He's an awful base runner. He's a mediocre fielder at best. And the bat he's the definition of a microwave shooter at second base. I mean, he is a microwave 3-point shooter in the NBA playing baseball. That's what his equivalent is. And it would drive me nuts. I get driven nuts with Jeff McNeil. That's another headache. At least Jeff doesn't quit playing defense and quit running balls out. Yeah. And Gleyber just looks like he's disinterested sometimes.
Let's keep talking about him. Keep talking about him.
He's hearing us.
Chris and Jimmy. Oh, my
He's hearing us speak. The one thing, too, when it comes to potentially making a move, I know you mentioned before, could they make a move maybe for a first baseman? Or if you're going to do the straight platoon, then what are you going to do at third base? The problem right now, too, it's only June 10th. We're still so far away from the trading deadline. I know we're going to dive into it in a little more detail in a moment, but in both leagues, I mean, that third wild card spot is open outside of 5 teams. All right. You got the Athletics, the Angels, and the White Sox. Everyone could pretty much agree they don't have a shot. All right. Those 3 are done in the AL. And the NL, you got the Rockies and the Marlins. No one thinks they have a shot. Every other team in baseball is within 5 games of a playoff spot. It's even worse in the National League because the National League, I mean, there are so many teams under 500. The Mets are a perfect example. The Mets are 8 games under 500. They're only 3 games back. So that's the problem right now. It's still way too early. All it takes is for a team to go on an 8-2 run to all of a sudden bring them closer to 500, and they're really right there in it for the last wild card spot. So it's too early to make a move, but certainly as we get closer, once you get past the All-Star break, then you'll really have an idea, okay, more teams are going to drop down. More teams will be 10-plus games out. You're going to really have a clear set pool of players that could be available to deadline, and then you kind of reassess there. I think in the short term being now through the All-Star break, I think you just live with what you got. And whether that's rotating a LeMahieu and Rizzo in a straight platoon, whether it's just hoping Rizzo catches fire, whatever it is, I think you just have to ride it out and see what happens.
God-awful. He's been god-awful.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is, too, though, as bad as he's been, I mean, look at the team. The team is winning despite all those numbers. And the biggest part of it, too, is you have one big trade deadline acquisition that's already on your roster. And that is your ace in Garrett Cole. And it's crazy that you have that acquisition coming once he's healthy and ready to go, because that pitching staff right now, you want to talk about the lineup and how the lineup, maybe without a Judge or Soto, isn't as deep. That pitching staff is, I mean, right now, they're the best in the game in ERA. They're going to get the best on their team back. Best in the AL back soon too. So that'll be a very nice acquisition when he comes back.
Quick shout outs before we move over to Mets talk here. Ghost in the building. Shout out to Ghost doing great work over at Morning Brew Sports on the Spaces. We got Boogie down with the fantastic Sunday Space, rather new Sunday Space. That's Boogie Nights. He does a great job over there. Just out here smacking Hornets with hockey sticks. This guy is definitely from Minnesota. Yankees Stu, what's up? Lauren, what's up? First times as Joe called out before. Jimmy Randazzo is in the freaking building. Randazzo, who's part of our River Ave rotation a couple months ago. Great work over at Yankees Pod. They go live Monday through Friday from 12 to 1 on Space. He does amazing work over there. We also, you're a mod, Swift, because Swift doesn't even know he's a mod here on YouTube, I guess. Swift, what's going on? Thanks for checking out. And NFE is also in the building. What's going on, guys? All right, let's talk New York Mets baseball, and we'll kick it around the opposite way. So, Corey Favs, what's your thoughts on the New York Mets and their recent trip to the UK?
Listen, you had that London trip, a little bit of controversy with the final out in the game. But honestly, listen, when I was watching it live, I didn't think anything was dirty on it. We'll get more on that in a moment. But they split the 2-game set versus the Phillies across the pond. Earlier in the week, they swept the Nationals. Now, listen, it's the Nationals. You should sweep those series. So I'm not going to get too excited just yet with the New York Mets. But at the end of the day, they're 6-4 in their last 10. So to finally see a 500 record or above in that last of 10 column is definitely refreshing, because May was an absolutely dreadful month. I mean, they started the month of May, they won the series versus the Cardinals, and then they didn't win a single series the rest of the month. But all of a sudden, the calendar switched to June, and things got better. Now the Mets are actually won a couple of series in a row. Well, they split with the Phillies, but you didn't lose a couple of series in a row. You know what I mean? But the big thing with the Mets right now is just try to go out there and win series. The schedule is a little lighter. You got the Marlins this week, all right? If you could take 3 from the Marlins, then you got the Padres this weekend. All of a sudden, you could find yourself in a position where maybe you could win 5 of 6 games this week. And all of a sudden, next Monday's show is a slightly different conversation, because that's a team now that would really be heating up a bit. And in that wild card chase, it is disgusting that a team 8 games under 500 is only 3 games out, but that's the state of baseball right now, especially in the National League. Your third wild card spot right now is under 500.
Yeah.
I mean, you got the Giants and the Reds, both 32 and 34, 2 games under. So it's way too early to consider the Mets out of it. But again, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, the key takeaways are, and the positives are, they played the Diamondbacks really well, despite blowing a game that they should have won. That would have made you feel really good if they had taken that extra game against the Diamondbacks. You go into London, you split with Philly. That's always a weird series. That's a weird field. You don't expect to beat anybody when you go over to London for 2 games. You don't know how people are rested and everything. So the game yesterday was a great game. The Mets won. They stuck in there. They blew the lead. They came back. They kept it together. Torrens, who's been great, an acquisition that the Mets got for the Yankees for a couple bucks. He's been great for them right now. Yeah. You're going to get Francisco Alvarez back this week. You're going to get Edwin Diaz probably next week. I think he's on bereavement, actually. You're going to get Edwin Diaz back at some point, probably around the weekend. So listen, the reinforcements are coming. Kodai Senga looks like he's finally thrown off a mound now, starting his rehab assignment. Who knows if that's going to stick or not. So there are some reinforcements coming for this team. This team is playing a little bit better. The bullpen still gives me agita. I can't sit there and watch Ottavino throw another Frisbee that gets launched to Albany. I can't do it. That drives me nuts. Drew Smith has come back and actually kind of provided them a little bit of boost in that bullpen. But I swear to God, I see Ottavino in another big spot, I'm gonna lose my shit. I was this guy can't pitch in a big spot anymore. Stop trucking him out there. Mendoza, please. And do we not have the statistics? I don't mean to go on a rant. Do we not have the statistics that Adam Ottavino on day 2 of a back-to-back has like a 10.5 ERA? Do we not know that? Why are we putting him in there on a back-to-back game in a save situation? Can somebody explain that to me? Anyway, Lindor, I gotta give credit to Lindor. Lindor's turned his season around ever since he's moved up to the leadoff spot. He's batting like 350. He's been one of the hottest hitters in baseball, outside of Aaron Judge, who's just the surface of the sun.
He's in a different league.
That's another league.
Lindor is the hottest hitter in MLB because Aaron Judge has graduated to a different.
Aaron Judge is on another planet. I gotta give Aaron Judge credit. But Lindor, since he's moved to the leadoff spot, has looked more like the Francisco Lindor we know. Yes, I'd still like a little bit more power. I'd still like a little bit more competitive at bats when he doesn't get a hit. But at the end of the day, I can't complain about that. It's the rest of the lineup. I still need Nimmo to get hot. I still need Alonso to get on a tear. And then we'd be in good shape going into the reinforcements coming. But overall, the Mets are playing a little bit more towards what I expected this team to play, which is a little bit more towards 500. And right now, you don't even have to get to 500 to be in the conversation. So just creep your way back. This is a good week for the Mets. They play in Miami, whose franchise is ready to fold at this point. You got to take at least 2 out of 3 from them. You should sweep them, but I'm not going to go there.
Shouldn't sweep anyone. I'm
not as doom and gloom until I see Adam Ottavino on the hill in the 8th or the 9th inning. Then I'm doom and gloom.
Joe, let's pause the thoughts on the Mets real quick. Shout outs to Erica and Nithin who just entered the building. But Joe, let's talk Instagram, and then we're going to get over to our creator spotlight bit. What do you got?
Yeah, so you can follow us on Instagram. We're also live now on Instagram, so you can watch us on Instagram if you're traveling, commuting, don't have access to YouTube or Twitter, or you just want to scroll through some pictures while you watch us. You can do that too. You can follow our profile page at Empire State Baseball, Corey at Corey Favs, myself at JR Pugs, Rich at Rich J. Rivera, and Tom at T. Wospil. We have all our archived graphics, segments, preview polls, meme reels, anything you can think of, we put up on Instagram for pleasure. We're almost at 4,000 followers on Instagram.
Crazy. Yeah.
That's our next mark on there as well.
Crazy stuff. And speaking of Instagram, there was an issue reported about Instagram not working for the live feed. We did just get the feed going again. So if you check out the live feed now, Instagram is working at this moment. But if you're checking us out on YouTube, don't go anywhere. Stay here. The fun's over on YouTube. All right, let's get into our creator spotlight bit. I'm very excited to bring on our next guest here to talk content creation and Mets baseball. And our guest is Anthony Rivera. He's the host of Subway to Shea, which he has sporadic show times throughout the week. So just make sure you're subscribed to Subway to Shea. The handles are in the low portion of our graphic here. He's also on Apple and Spotify on top of YouTube, and recently added to the Morning Brew Sports Network team with the Mets Evening Brew. That's on Thursdays, 9 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. Pacific. Again, this is just a great pair here between Morning Brew Sports and Subway to Shea, 2 fantastic channels. And at this time, for the first time here in Empire State of Baseball, I got to welcome a fellow Rivera here on the show. Anthony Rivera, welcome aboard. And good to see you. How's it going, Anthony?
Gentlemen, it's an honor to be on here with you. Could I have cheesed any harder on that picture there? Like,
well, let's take a quick review. I mean, this guy, you look like you're behind the desk right there, or a podium. But Anthony, tell me about that picture. Where did you take that photo?
So I was at the SNY Studios. I'm good friends with Dexter Henry. And every so often, I'll go on and do the New York Post Sports and SNY for either the Mets or hockey as well, because I do a hockey show with my friends Adam Bernard and Chris Moraes called Total Hockey Now. So they had me come in and fill in for the playoffs. So I was doing a little bit of bits there for, the Rangers and the Islanders, and sometimes the Devils too, as I'm a Devils fan.
Nice.
So
there we go.
Yeah, that's pretty much where that picture comes from.
Awesome stuff. And Dexter Henry continued to do amazing things with SNY and the New York Post Sports. Our good buddy Hector also had made an appearance over on the same bit. So great stuff for you guys. Congrats out to Anthony and to Hector. You guys are doing amazing work here on the YouTube channels and over on the big time as well. So Anthony, let's get into it. I want to get more into Subway to Shea and what led you to the channel, but we are talking about Mets baseball. So just sticking to the topic. Your latest thoughts on this New York Mets team, which surprisingly 3 games out of an NL wildcard spot.
It's so wild to think that they're only 3 games out, considering that there are, what is it? I think that the Braves are the only team over 500 in the wild card. The other 2 wild card teams under 500, and so is everyone else. I think only 4 teams in the National League are over 500 right now. What a terrible league this is right now. It's awful.
I mean, it's dreadful, dreadfully bad. And the thing, too, is I think about some recent seasons, too. And if you remember back in 2021, when the Braves won it all, that was the first year with the Cohen regime. The Braves were under 500 in June. I think they finished June 3 games under, and then the Mets were in first place at the time. We know how that ended. Look at 2022 when the Phillies fired Joe Girardi in June. They were, I think, 7 or 8 games under 500, so pretty much on pace with where the Mets are right now. They went to the World Series. Look at the Diamondbacks last year. That's another team nobody really predicted to make a deep run, and sure enough, they made it to the World Series. So I want to ask you guys your take from a baseball fan in general. On one hand, you could see here with the new wild card rules that teams are in it the whole way. On the other hand, I know there's a debate too. Does this extra wild card position water down the competition a little bit and make teams just tread water and not go all in until it really matters? I want to get your take on the third wild card and how it relates to the competition.
Yeah, I think it does. I think it does water it down, and you're not going to get these, big monster trades at the deadline because all these teams are still in it, and they're not going to want to trade their pieces because they think that maybe they have an opportunity to make the playoffs. Look at the Angels last year, who thought that they had an opportunity to make the playoffs. They made all these big moves. They really weren't in it. And then by the end of like 2 weeks after that, they were out entirely. And then I think they started getting rid of those players that they even brought in. So that's a concern that I have, especially for the Mets this season. Look, they can be 3 games under 500. They can be close to the wild card. I just want David Stearns to make the right moves for this team when it goes forward. I don't want him to buy and sell off all of these all these prospects. I also don't want him to just sell everyone off. I want there to be some sort of a balance when it comes to this team. Maybe sell off all the 1-year deal guys, like the JD Martinez's, Luis Severino, who's pitching very well. You want to take those guys and try to trade them. I would love to trade Jose Quintana if I could, especially after this weekend, and Starling Marte as well. Those guys are going to be a little bit harder to trade. But like, if you're going to trade your prospects, I don't want it to just be to make a playoff run this year. I want to get major league players that are going to impact this team for years to come. Guys that are under contract that you can definitely see as signing, before they get to free agency. The Mets have to kind of change the way they, think. And I think David Stearns is that guy that's going to, lead them into a team that can win consistently.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think Stearns is the right guy. He's kind of come together, and run a team that's been built by, let's face it, 4 other GMs have had their fingerprints on this team, and these are the guys that are killing them right now. And Jeff McNeil's contract, which was an Epler contract, he's got the remnants of Marte. That's an Epler contract. What's his face? Was it Zach Short brought in Francisco Lindor? They gave him the big contract, and then both of those GMs who were involved with the Lindor thing are out the door. So, in all reality, about 20% of this team, not even that, is David Stearns. The rest is the remnants of Epler and Short and all the guys, even all as far back as Alderson. So, my question to you, a little bit more focused to your podcast and Subway to Shea, what got you started down this path? What made you start the Subway to Shea pod? What made you start, say, hey, I want to go talk about these Mets that torture my life for, a couple times a week? Tell us how you got that started. What came up with the inspiration for that idea?
Yeah, it definitely came as soon as the Will Pond sold. I could not talk about a Wilpon led team for as much longer as I could think of. So when Cohen bought the team, I was like, maybe it's time to start talking Mets. I had dabbled in other podcasts as well with other people, and it just it didn't work out. So I said, let me go off on my own. What do I like talking about most? I love the Mets. That's my team. And I went into that. Naming it Subway to Shea. There's so many Mets podcasts out right now, a lot of great ones too, but they all took Mets names to it. And I always loved Shea Stadium. I always loved the neon lights, and that kind of led me to naming it Subway to Shea. And the rest is history. It's been growing ever since, and I'm proud of it. Proud to be on here with you guys, and it's a lot of fun doing this stuff. You guys know as much as me, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, Tom, the best part of the show is Tom and Joe going at it. We see essentially a Subway series on Empire State of Baseball, if we're ever so lucky. But Thomas, go ahead. I know you had the next question here for Anthony.
I was gonna say, Anthony, really just happy to have a competent Rivera on the show for once in this storied history of Empire State of Baseball.
Yankee crime right there.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
so
Rich asks for it. I kind of wanted to get a little bit more back into these Mets, right? And you talking about what would you like to see them do? Because the way I see the wild card, and I know Mets fans, and you're looking at hey, we're only 3 back. I think the real question is how many games do you expect this team to win? Because if you look at 2020, so we've done 3 wild cards for the last 2 seasons. 2022 in the NL, 87 wins got in as the 3rd wild card. Last year, it was 84. The Marlins made the playoffs last year. Don't remember that. What a wild time. So where do you think the Mets have to get to really, because that's what it comes down to. It doesn't, you have to get to a win total really to make the playoffs. And if you don't think they get there, what are the pieces and the kind of things you would like to see the Mets go after in return for, an Alonso, if that's the big move that they want to try to make?
I think I saw somewhere on Twitter where they would have to win 59 games or so to get to 85 wins, which is a lot to ask for from this team and this group. I mean, on paper, they should be able to do it. I had them winning 87 games when the season began. And that's because I thought that Francisco Lindor was going to be Lindor, Alonso, Nimmo. I thought that these guys were going to, play to the back of their baseball card. I didn't think Edwin Diaz was going to be 2022 Edwin Diaz, but I thought he was going to be good, and it just didn't come to fruition. I mean, the rotation has been somewhat better, but not great. This team has a long way to go, and look, they already did the coaches meeting. They did the players meeting. I mean, they've DFA'd guys. There's no more things that they could possibly do to try to turn around this team. This is this little stand that they have going on now, which I think they are 6-3 since that meeting. This is it for them. And when they get Edwin Diaz back and when they get Francisco Alvarez back, that's going to be the run. If they don't make a run at that point in time, they're going to have to think long and hard about trading everybody off. And that includes Pete Alonso, who, if Pete Alonso wanted Aaron Judge money, I mean, the dude's not close. I love Pete. He's nowhere close to what Aaron Judge is. I mean, the guy's clutch, all these big home runs he has. And you're watching Pete right now, and he's swinging at balls in the other team's dugout. I don't know. I love Pete and I love these guys, but I'm not attached to this team. If you told me I had to trade these guys to make a World Series team, do what you got to do. So I am not attached to any of these guys right now. Like I said before, you got to trade all the guys on 1-year contracts if you're selling, right? JD Martinez is a part of that. Sevy, maybe you can get something from Anaya. I would definitely like to trade Quintana. The hard ones to trade but need to go is probably Jeff McNeil and Starling Marte. I can't watch anymore of Starling Marte in right field. I'm pretty sure you guys saw what happened on Saturday, where he had a 95% chance of catching that ball, and I don't know if he was just not into it or what, but he was definitely not running hard to try to get that ball, and it basically cost them the game.
I'll tell you what. After this weekend, the Dodgers, you actually go out and sign Teoscar Hernandez next year. That guy can hit. He's on a 1-year deal with the Dodgers. Like that seems like would be a great fit. And then just don't even talk to Juan Soto. Just forget about him.
The problem with him is you've got to put him in the outfield every day. That's the brutal part with Teoscar.
Although they do have the DH spot too, because I mean JD is only a 1-year deal. So if you can find yourself in a position, maybe Teoscar splits his time between the outfield and DH. It depends on who else they bring in, but that possibility is still there as well.
So Anthony, also, I was going to say real quick, going off your quick math of the wild card, it looks like to get to 85 wins, the Mets would have to win 57 more games, meaning they'd have to go 57-41, a 16 games over 500 clip. The next 98, they have 98 games left, based on the math that I just did, which could be wrong.
It's certainly possible to happen, but this team has not shown at all over the first 2 months of the season, now into month 3, that they're capable of doing that. Like look at the win. Like they swept Washington, but those were nail biters, and they were leading by 4 runs in 2 of those games.
Yeah.
And then you go to even the Sunday game where they almost lost that one as well.
Yeah.
So like they're still not, outside of that Wednesday game where they completely crushed Washington, and it was like a full team effort, starting pitching, bullpen, hitting. Outside of that game, we haven't seen any consistency. They're more inconsistent. I like to say that they're inconsistently consistent, it's just been a tough season.
And that's kind of something like Joe, you had talked about a couple of weeks ago in an epic rant here in Empire State of Baseball, where you were going through the splits between Lindor and Marte and McNeil and Nimmo. And it just seems like there was just never that consistency from that full core. You have those great splits, but there's a lot of offers. There's a lot of 3-fers. There's a lot of 2-fers. Joe, again, it's a crazy season thus far for this New York Mets. The wild card standings, of course, I think are more a reflection of how bad the National League is compared to how good the Mets actually are. Well, Joe, go ahead.
Well, that's the only reason why I have hope. And if you want to put those up for a second, and Anthony, tell me which one of these teams ahead of the Mets inspires confidence. I mean, the San Diego Padres don't exactly inspire confidence. They just lost 2 pitchers. I'm not sure how good the Chicago Cubs are. The Cincinnati Reds are hot and cold. I don't trust the Giants lineup. I don't trust the Cardinals pitching. I don't trust the Pirates lineup. The Diamondbacks seem to be asleep, and I don't really think the Nationals are all that good. So if the Mets actually found a decent stretch of competent baseball, it's not like any of these teams ahead of them are built better than the Mets are. I think every team has basically the same exact group of flaws that the Mets themselves are, which there's very few teams with star powers. There's very few teams with deep start and pitching and a competent lineup. I think the Mets have one of the more competent lineups of this group if they're playing to the back of their baseball card. It just puts a wide open wild card situation to me, and that's why the only reason I have a little hope at this point is because if the Mets actually turn it on and Alonso and Nimmo and McNeil start hitting, the Mets can catch any one of these teams. None of these teams are better than the Mets in terms of the names on their roster.
You know what? Sweep the Marlins this week and take 2 out of 3 from the Padres.
Yep.
And then now we're talking.
Exactly.
Like now we're really talking. If you because look, the Mets have always had a hard time facing the Marlins, whether they were good or bad or absolutely terrible. They had a hard time facing them. The Padres give them fits as well. Take care of business against those two, especially since the Padres are 3.5 games ahead of them in the race. If you win 2 out of 3 and maybe the Padres lose 2 out of 3 in whatever series they're going up against, but look, we're not even a little bit closer. So anything is possible, especially in this terrible National League. But every time you're given these, these opportunities, right? Like you look at 2020, only 4 teams didn't make the playoffs. The Mets ended up being one of them. right?
Yep.
2021, they're leading the division until August, fall apart. 2022, all the way to October, fall apart. Last year was just an awful year. And like now they make it so much easier to make the playoffs. You got 3 teams, you got the DH, and the Mets don't seem to be able to take advantage. Now they have JD Martinez, but for the first 3 years of having a DH, we didn't have a DH.
Yep.
So, hopefully the Mets can figure this out under David Stearns, and he puts, like you said, he puts the competent roster together, which I think he will. He'll, weed out the past outside of, Francisco Lindor and Brandon Nimmo, which those guys are on their contracts are going to be here for a while. But he'll bring in his own team and he'll get the run prevention that he wanted. And I have confidence. Look at the guys that he's already brought in on his terms outside of Zach Short and Joey Wendell. Mostly everybody else has kind of worked out. You even could throw in Adrian Hauser right now because they put him in the bullpen and he pitches very well out of the bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
But the addition of Luis Torrens, what he's done so far,
It's a savvy move.
Jose Iglesias as well, who I wanted up here from spring. I didn't want Zach Short. I didn't want Joey Wendell. You look at Jose Iglesias' stats throughout his career, even in the minor leagues, when he couldn't find a team, and he's always played well. So the fact that he's playing well now does not shock me at all.
Yeah, no, 100%. I remember you were mentioning his name on Twitter way back in March. I mean, it's a major leaguer. And that was another thing that prior Mets regimes, and even you can make the case too, maybe at the very beginning of this year, seemed to ignored was the bench depth. And they were always going in. There were so many opportunities to improve the bench. They didn't. But a guy like Iglesias really changed it. And honestly, keep riding him out. As long as he's hot and as long as McNeil is ice cold, keep playing the hot hand. And I give Mendoza a ton of credit for 2 things. One, for doing that, obviously, and playing the hot hand and seeing the cold guy, but also for trying something different. He changed the whole lineup, the dynamics of the lineup. And it's worked. Ever since they did the lineup change, it's gotten a little better in Metstown. So I got to give Mendoza credit on that. And I got to give Stearns credit for being a little aggressive with the send-ups and call-downs and the little moves here and there like a Torrens, and hope to see that continue.
Yeah, we don't have to wait and see, Dominic Leone staying the entire season. He awful. Or was it Trevor Gott last year?
Stearns is not great.
There's been so many options for them to go to. And if you're playing terribly, you're out of here. So, I like that approach. It kind of lights a fire on the rest of these players, especially a guy like Jeff McNeil. Like, to me right now, he's in a platoon. I mean, like you said, Corey, I'm playing Jose Iglesias as much as I can. Every time there's a lefty, Jose Iglesias is playing. And look, Jeff McNeil comes back on Sunday, he gets 2 hits. Play the hot hand. Just do it.
Exactly.
We're gonna start the wrap with Anthony here. Anthony, again, thanks for your time. And if you are joining us just now here on Empire State of Baseball, we're here with Anthony Rivera, host of Subway to Shea, co-host of Mets Evening Brew, and by far has the best backdrop I've seen here on the live streams with the amount of bobbleheads and memorabilia back there. Anthony, anything you want to pick out in that collection that I'm seeing? Any treasure items back there?
I'm trying to think, man. There's just. Well, so I got this poster. I interviewed the director, Nick Davis, of Once Upon a Time in Queens. It was a documentary. It was a 30 for 30 on the 1986 Mets. And it's probably hard to see, but it's a poster, the backdrop of Shea Stadium. And then on top of it is Dwight, Doc, Darryl, Keith Hernandez, and Gary Carter together, and I thought that was just a cool poster. But I have so many bobbleheads and Funko Pops of Mets.
I got something for you, Anthony. You're a Devils fan, right?
Yeah.
Got a Luke Hughes debut.
That's sweet.
So
that's. I got a couple. I think I have a Nico Heischer one.
Yeah, my brother-in-law's got that for me for Christmas, so that was a good one.
Here we are showing off things, and yet Tom moved like his 100+ autograph baseball somewhere else. No longer in Studio Wospil over there.
They're in the basement now.
There you go. So Anthony, once again, great stuff. You're doing amazing work over at Subway to Shea. Recently now at Morning Brew, now you're linked up with Hector and now Eddie Presti, Al Cintrone over the Mets Evening Brew. Looking forward to watch you guys on Thursdays. Hopefully maybe we can see some collaboration with Joe and Corey soon enough with the Mets Evening Brew. And hopefully we see the Mets make a statement here. They have, again, 3 games back of the wild card. You start to have a little hope, especially if a winning streak builds, but I think you said it best. Rome wasn't built in a day. You go out and sweep the Marlins and take the next 2 of 3, you can find yourself in a good spot. But Anthony, real quick, we're going to pull up your creator card once again. Anything you got coming up, upcoming appearances, more Dexter Henry spots? What's going on? What's your future plans with Subway to Shea and Mets Evening Brew?
No appearances just yet. I just did a live podcast earlier today with Tom Pringle of Bat Flips and Nerds. He's over in the UK, so we kind of wrapped up the whole London series, and you could catch that on YouTube right now, or after this I'm going to upload it to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. But then Thursday comes and I'll be on with the Mets Evening Brew at 9:00, probably to wrap up the series with the Marlins. And hopefully Friday, depending on work, I would like to get in an episode of Subway to Shea before the series against the Padres. But like I said, it always fluctuates because of work.
Yep. Of course, man. Well, we thank you for your time tonight. Luckily, we caught a Mets off day, so we're able to get another Rivera on Empire State of Baseball. Oh, you come from my spot. I could use a day off here and there. Supplement, a little handicap action on top.
We'd only be so lucky.
Yeah, I know. Anthony, thank you so much for your time, man. We will talk soon.
Absolutely.
Again,
I love
Anthony.
collaborating.
Thanks a lot, Anthony.
Thanks, Anthony.
Take care, Anthony.
Take care.
And once again, give Anthony a follow over on Subway to Shea on Instagram, on X. Give him a subscribe on YouTube. And of course, Morning Brew Sports, which we plug a lot here. We're good friends with our buddy Hector Beauchamp. Good friends with our buddy, of course. That would make him a buddy. We're good friends with Hector Beauchamp over Morning Brew Sports. Hector and Kelso are doing a great job growing that channel. And they added to that talent pool that they have with Al, Eddie, and Anthony over at the Mets Evening Brew. So give them some love on Thursdays as well. But we got a show to continue here, boys. We still got a New York Strike Exchange. We still have a game. So still a lot of show. It's 8:52. So I think it's we're going to go over time. Give us a follow over on X. And that's at ESB Podcast, over 3,000 followers. And continue to grow our subsidiaries at ESPNYM, NYY, ESPNYY, that is. Individually at G Gory for Corey, JR Pugs for Joe, Rich J Rivera for me, and T Wospil for Tom. And that's over on the artist formerly known as Twitter. But it's time to do the New York Strike Exchange. So let's get through it. And we're not going to waste any time. We're going to get the Bears first. I know we've been doing Bulls a lot, but we're going to get to the Bears first. So Joe, take it away. What is our Bear list for the past 2 weeks of New York player rankings?
Yeah, time for Sierra's favorite part of the day. And speaking of Bears, we had Anthony Rizzo as the number 1. I did not call Sierra a Bear. I did not mean that to happen. We'll start with number 5. Number 5 was Dennis Santana, who just got DFA'd the other day. 5 innings, 13.5 ERA, 8 earned runs. I believe he gave up 4 in that game the other day to the Dodgers that led to his DFA. He is gone from the Yankees, so he's our number 5 Bear. Number 4 has been DJ Stewart. DJ Stewart's been in a slump as a part-time player for the Mets. He's kind of been a platoon outfielder for them, but he's been awful of late. 1 for his last 17, 7 strikeouts. He's basically an all-or-nothing hitter at this point. Number 3, and I wish I could have put him higher, but the top 2 are going to take it. Adam Ottavino. Ottavino's been terrible. 3 1/3 innings pitched. I'm pretty sure he pitched like 5 games to get to that 3 1/3 inning. 18.9 ERA, 471 batting average against. He can't get anybody out. He has blown multiple games for the Mets, at least 4 games for the Mets that he has pitched in the last 2 weeks.
Yankee fans, you missed Ottavino?
God awful this year. Again,
Blake can fix him.
The back-to-back ERA for him is over 10 for the season, and we still trot him out there. Number 2, Sean Manaea. Manaea's actually been pretty good for the Mets this year, but his last 3 starts have been dreadful. 9 1/3 inning pitched, 11 earned runs, 317 batting average against. He has not had a good time. Granted, he played the Phillies this past weekend. The Phillies hit a lot of guys well, but still, Minaya, you hope he gets back on track. He was an interesting piece that Stearns brought in this offseason. And number one's Anthony Rizzo, 4 for his last 41, 119 on base percentage, not even drawing walks at this point, 265 OPS, and he's just been basically a rollover ground ball player. He's had 5 Ks, so he's making contact. He has been awful. He is our number one bear of the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I just want to make a comment on one player, and it's actually a player who did not make our overall list, but he's a player who I gave the number one bear spot out of a principal moment. And he did not make the cut, fell 7th overall after the rankings. But that is Jorge Lopez, who I know we haven't got to talk much about. But after his complete meltdown, both on the mound and off it, I know it happened just at the beginning of this segment. He only pitched an inning and a third in this segment because he was only here for 2 games in this week's rankings. But out of principle, I gave Jorge Lopez the number one bear spot because talk about terrible antics on and off the field. Goodbye. See you later. You know what, Jorge? After your meltdown, the team has actually started to play well. So thank you for it, and thank you for being off this team.
In Tom and I's coverage last week while you guys were away from the microphones, we talked about the Jorge Lopez thing. Real quick, did you hear team or teammate?
I heard teammate, but when the reporters asked him multiple times if he said the team is the worst team he's ever played for, he said yes. So I think he said teammate, but at the same time, he had a chance to clarify multiple times, and he took the I don't give a F attitude.
Seriously.
Therefore, got himself DFA'd.
I said it last week. I think you also have to keep in mind that English is not his first language. And probably would have been best to have a translator with him to make sure he understood what was being asked and then understood how he clarified it. Unfortunate situation, but yeah, not good on the mound either. So
honestly, all things considering, Corey, I kind of regret not putting him on my bear list. I think it makes sense. I know I kind of like, and the one player I'll focus on is going to be Dennis Santana. Anthony is just, he's just washed at this point. You could look at I just think he's entered that age officially where he's just not a productive player in baseball anymore. But when it comes to Dennis Santana, he was DFA'd yesterday. Rob Marinaccio rightfully freed from AAA and up on the big league roster. Santana, hey, we had covered him. I at least covered him at length during spring training and then the preseason episodes.
You were the number one Dennis Santana fan.
I was a Santana fan. He was topping out 100 miles an hour at spring training invite. I was like, oh, this could be a Blake guy. He's not a Blake guy. He's terrible. He's not a good pitcher. And there's a reason why he's been on and off of baseball teams. 13.50 ERA in the last 5 1/3. And now in DFA limbo. We're going to move on to the Bulls. We're going to take the good now. And Thomas, you're going to run down our list of Bulls. So here you go.
Listen, I think we could make an argument that if we took Aaron Judge's 2 weeks ago and then he didn't play last week, and then you took Aaron Judge last week and didn't play 2 weeks ago, he would be 1 and 2 on the Bull list. That's how good Aaron Judge has been. He has been incredible. But we'll start at the bottom and work our way up. Juan Soto, remember that guy? He missed the series against the Dodgers, and now he came back with a single already tonight. We have him 5th on our list, a little 1.3 OPS. Love that. 3 and 4, we have some Mets. Nice to see the Mets get back on the list after 2 weeks ago of being only Yankees. We got Starling Marte with a 4.14 average, again a 1. OPS, 3 extra base hits. Getting on base, making things happen is what you want to see from Marte. And then speaking of getting on base, making things happen, we have our 3rd spot. We have Francisco Lindor, who went from our Bulls list or Bears list 2 weeks ago into the Bulls list up to the 3rd spot. So good for him there. And the move to get into the leadoff spot is good for him. A good spot for him in the lineup. Again, get on base, make things happen. That's what you want to see out of a guy like Francisco Lindor. And then 1 and 2, just copy and paste from 2 weeks ago. We got Luis Gil facing a very good lineup and probably one of his worst outings against the Dodgers, but still a serviceable outing for him against them. And then, The other couple starts against the Angels in there, shoved against those losers. So he was looking good. And then Aaron Judge again, he's playing in a different league. He's incredible this year. And the one thing I kind of wanted to point out for him that I've noticed, and Rich, I don't know if you've seen this, I feel like he's actually changed his approach at the plate, and he's changed it to be more Soto-esque. I think there's a Soto influence on Judge. Judge used to kind of almost his front leg, he would start a lot more open and then kind of swing closed. And now it looks like he's just sitting loaded up on that back foot, very Soto-like, and he is just absolutely mashing balls. Yep. I have to think that Soto has some influence there, which is incredible. If Garrett Cole can make the extra pitching coach for the team, I think Juan Soto is our extra hitting coach. And then it's not like Aaron Judge needs any, could get any better, but he found a way to. He's been incredible. He's number one on our list.
Yeah, so I'll talk about Marte. We mentioned him not catching the fly ball the other day. Listen, defense notwithstanding, he's been great. He looks a lot more like the Marte that we knew before last year when the Mets first got him. He is going to be a piece that I think is movable at the deadline. He has 1 year, $20 million left after this season. So he's got this season and one more left. I think
eat a lot of that money.
If the Mets are going to be willing to eat a couple bucks out of that, he's going to be able to serve a team. I think a team like Seattle could use his presence. He can kind of cycle through DH. He really needs to spend a lot more time at DH than he does. Apparently, Tim Kirkjian said the other day, they gave him off on Sunday, that his knee has been barking, which might have contributed to the fly ball thing on Saturday. But overall, his bat has been what the Mets have needed. He's going in there right behind JD Martinez, and the Mets need that in that lineup. They need that depth, and they need that lineup lengthened a little bit, and he's been doing that this year, and he looks like a guy that the Mets could say, okay, we can work with this. So a team could want this version of Starlin Marte if they know how to manage the defense and the legs.
Yeah, and I'm going to highlight real quick on Francisco Lindor. I know we touched on it earlier in the show that ever since he got moved up to the leadoff role, he's been thriving in it too. So Mendoza give you a lot of credit. But I think when it comes to Lindor, we just have to expect this. Forget about March. Forget about April. He's just always going to get off to a slow start and then turn things on. I think that's been the case pretty much in all 4 seasons for Lindor. It's the slow start early in the year. By the end of the year, those numbers are going to average out. He'll put up a good season. It's just unfortunate for this year and last year both. The Mets have been really bad in the first part of the season, so we could have really used Lindor to get off to a hot start. This might have been a different record right now. But again, Lindor's being Lindor. All of a sudden, he's turning dreadful numbers into a hot stretch, and he'll be fine by the end of the year.
And I'm going to take a look at Luis Hill. I think this might have been the first time, fellas, if I'm not mistaken, that the 1-2 spot in the Bear Bull list did not change. It had the same players from the previous week to last. And granted, last year we did it on a weekly. This is now on a bi-weekly standpoint. But I got to talk about Luis Hill. And even after a start where Yankee fans were quick to say, all right, it's time to throw Hill in the bullpen. It's time to limit his innings now. 3 earned runs against the Dodgers, where the 2 players that beat you in last night's game was Mookie Betts, who's arguably a top 3 player in the league, and Teoscar Hernandez, who literally just won the NL Player of the Week. I mean, I don't think that's bad company to give up offense to. Hill has been fantastic. 1.83 ERA in the last 2 weeks, almost 20 innings pitched. 20 Ks in that time frame. His batting average against is still one of the lowest in all of baseball. Hill's been a revelation for this Yankees team. Again, as we go further into the season, it will be a curious discussion if the Yankees do indeed start to limit him. Although we've talked about it, pundits have talked about it, people on Twitter Spaces have been talking about it, but the Yankees have never actually come out and said that he's going to have an innings limit. So it's going to be a really intriguing conversation if this move is eventually made. And I know, listen, repeat Tommy John is on the rise. And I think for a pitcher like this, who hasn't thrown anything more than 110 professional innings between the majors and minors, and that was back in 2021, you have to think that they're going to nurture it a little bit.
100%. You can't have him throw 200 innings off of Tommy John surgery. I mean, look what happened. We can go down the list. Look what Matt Harvey is the perfect example. Look what happened to Matt Harvey. And it's just the
Murder's teammate.
The danger is so real. A Strasburg. I mean, we could go through all of these guys, and you know, it's a terrible position. Harvey put the Mets in the same position where he's pitching so well, you can't shut him down, because when you restart him, you're putting him in a position where he's got to live up to what he did in the first half. So now you want to ride that storm all the way through to the end, but he's going to get to a point where he's pitching so many innings that he's never pitched before that it's going to put the Yankees in a terrible position. I think the Yankees end up doing this at the All-Star break. They shut him down a week or two early at the All-Star break. He misses 2 or 3 starts in that period. They bring him back maybe a week later, get near the trade deadline, and that way they can assess it. But I don't see how they just bring him wire to wire like this. I don't see how that's sustainable given everything that the league does nowadays.
They've been careful with him. He hasn't thrown over 100 pitches in any of his starts, and even some of the games he's gotten to the 8th inning and he's just pounding the strike zone and getting out. So, you know, they're going to monitor him and see if how he's reacting and how he's recovering after start to start. And then, if things aren't going great, you do have to figure something out. But until then, if he's recovering well and they can, you know, they have other ways of looking at, you know, is his elbow dipping, is his arm slot not the same? If he's staying consistent, then I think you keep going with him until that stops, the way you make a change.
Well, it looks like it's 4-0 Yankees. I was calling out earlier that the Yankees were putting out a real punt lineup out there, you know, telling Judge to sit. You got Christian Jemai Jones in the middle of it. You're facing Seth Lugo, who's at this point of the season an AL Cy Young contender with the way
Seth Lugo can kick rocks.
The former Met. Oh, look at you quoting NFP. Good for you. But that is our bull list there. Soto, Marte, Lindor, Hill, and Judge. And as always, I know we're kind of like running pressed for time here. We love to ask, though, round the room real quick. Don't even give a reason. Just give a player. Who's making the bull list the next time around in 2 weeks' time? Starting with Corey, to Joe, to Tom. I'll take it away.
I'll tell you what. He's been hot for the Mets. I think he could squeak in top 5. Mark Vientos has looked like a different player in the last 2 weeks with the Mets. This is getting cold.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Pete Alonso. Pete's due to break out and make this list. I don't think he's made this list this year.
Give me Verdugo.
Let's go with Anthony Volpe. I think Anthony Volpe will find his way back into the list again. He was right there almost at the 1 spot to start this year off. So I'm going to go with the young shortstop. All righty, Tom, it's now time to talk Rhoback. You're wearing a beauty. Corey's wearing a beauty. I went with a blue shirt. I don't even know if Joe's got a Rhoback shirt in the closet, but Thomas, let's go sell Joe on some more Rhoback.
Let's do so. And listen, everyone, I mentioned last week, Father's Day is now less than a week away. So what does that mean? If you haven't gotten something for your dad, there's probably nothing better than getting a nice item from Rhoback. And listen, I'll be honest with you. You've taken too much time. You are up against it. They offer 2-day shipping. You have to pay for that a little bit. So you could go down that route. Now, the other route you could go down if you want to get him a nice polo like I got on, or like what Corey has on. A good show. The Team USA plaid, plaid. So there's some golf tees, but there's a lot going on here. Corey with a classic red polo, looking like Tiger Woods up there in the corner. But yeah, you can order regular shipping if you want, and then just tell your dad that the shipping was delayed. Because let's be honest, you've lied to him before. He's knocked on the bathroom door. What are you doing in there for so long? And say, I'm finishing up.
One.
Yeah, listen, you've lied. They might as well continue lying to your father for this Father's Day and let him know that it's UPS. It's stuck in the mail. I'll get it to you by Wednesday. So head over to Rhoback.com. Use promo code TWASPL15 to get yourself 15% off your order, because listen, there's a lot of great things there. Again, a lot of the Team USA and the USA stuff for the summer is getting restocked. They actually just restocked this polo, the USA T plaid, if you're looking for it. A lot of good things. Again, Q-zips, hoodies, bathing suits, shorts, really cool women's stuff as well. Rhoback.com, promo code TWASPL15 to get 15% off your order.
I saw the Rhoback bathing suits the other day. I think they had one with like little flamingos on it. I thought that was
nice.
Little,
they have a liner in there. Some good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Damn it. Oh, the private DMs are fun. All righty. Well, let's get back to the regular show. All righty. It's time for a player to be named later. That'll be a conversation for space. It's a player to be named later. It's been a couple weeks since. And tonight, bringing you the 3 hints on the player we need to guess here is going to be Corey and Thomas. So, Thomas, you can take a breather after that long spot. And Mr. Corey Favs, let's pull up your hints.
Hide the chat, you bunch of cheaters.
Yeah, so for this player to be named later, again, this is a pitcher. Pitched in 17 seasons. He actually split his time almost equally between the rotation and the bullpen. So kind of a swing guy on both sides of the mound. He's pitched for 11 teams over the course of his 17 seasons in baseball, including a stint with every single team in the National League. The interesting stat here, even though he retired in 2015 from baseball, he actually made his last appearance in the 2017 World Baseball Classic, pitching for a country he was not born in.
There's a couple players that did that. Called it a career, then would play in the WBC.
So 2015, 17 years, made his debut in 1998.
Every
And he gave us an extra hint.
NL East team.
Yep, every NL East team.
Oh, okay.
Debut in 1998. So that kind of takes out the one guy I was thinking of.
And one thing, too, with the NL East, it's not the Nationals, it is the Expos, but it still counts as the same team.
Jason Marquis.
Not Marquis, but I like the guess. That's a good name.
Real fun old YouTube video about Jason Marquis going to Colorado. If you guys haven't seen it, very funny.
Staten Islander.
Oh, God. Jerry Blevins.
Not Jerry
No,
Blevins.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of, but that would make him 2. It's not that old.
17, 11 total teams.
1K for Tom, 1 for Corey, and I'm just sitting here. No, sorry, not 1K for Corey. Corey's asking the question. 1 for Joe, 1 for Tom.
Trying to think of one of those NL East junk throwing relievers that just got passed around like a beer at the bar.
John Roush.
Not Roush. Not Roush. Again, split between the rotation and the pen. Slightly more in the rotation, but almost an even split.
See, I would have gone with Oliver Perez, but I think he retired like last year.
Way too long.
Yeah, no.
Is that an official guess?
No, I just spitballing.
Okay, so K each had a bunch of
It's
red
not,
comments here. I'm not reading the comments, but I just see a big number there.
Mike Stanton.
Not Mike Stanton. I will say he pitched for an Asian. I'm going to be very nice here tonight. Pitched for an Asian country, but was not born in Asia.
Jeremy Guthrie.
Not Jeremy Guthrie.
That's a good guess too.
Of player, similar. That's. I like the player mold.
I'm going to K myself on purpose
Yeah.
here. I'm going to go Chris Benson.
Not Benson.
I'm out.
Maybe the last round of guesses
Tom,
here.
still got 2 to go. Joe,
I'm just gonna take 2 down the middle here. I don't think I got one.
2 Ks.
I don't know.
Joe?
It has to be like a lefty reliever. I'm just what lefty reliever is it? I don't know.
Roberto Hernandez.
Not Roberto Hernandez.
All right. Let's
All right.
see if anybody in the chat got it. But Corey, what is the answer?
I do not see an answer in the chat. A lot of Cologne. It was not Cologne. It is, again, pitched for an Asian country, but was born in Venezuela. That is Mr. Bruce Chen.
Wow.
Bruce Chen.
Bruce Chen.
That was never
Born in Venezuela, but of Chinese descent. And he pitched for Team China in the 2017 WBC. I actually was pretty shocked Bruce Chen pitched that long. I thought he's been out of the league a lot longer.
I wouldn't. Yeah.
But yeah, he pitched. He actually pitched better in the late part of his career. He led baseball in 2012 in games started, which is wild.
Scores 30 years ago. What the hell? A lot of Glaber love today. All righty, let's flip to the Yankee version of this game. So Thomas, take it away. Our 3 hints.
Let's go. This player, toured with the New York. Yeah, what is? Who wrote this? You wrote this, Rich. I didn't write this when I sent it to you. This player played with 3 different teams in his career. One of them being the Yankees, a 13-year career. This player was a top 5 in MVP voting in 2007. I can tell you, Bruce Chen was never top 5 in Cy Young voting.
Not
tell you
Bruce
that
Chen.
for sure. And then finally, this player won 2 World Series, although neither of them were the Yankees.
Jason Giambi.
Not Jason.
Had to throw that out there.
Andrew Jones.
Not Andrew Jones.
Troy Tulowitzki.
Not Troy Tulowitzki.
Oh, quick K's across the board. All right.
07.
No,
monitoring the
I
chat.
was gonna.
as well.
I was just gonna say it's not a guess. I was gonna say Pudge, but he's played with a lot more teams than just 3.
Sure has.
Grady Sizemore.
Not Grady Sizemore.
I don't think he played with the Yanks.
I don't think so.
Jacoby Ellsbury.
Not Jacoby. Says 2 strikes, Joe. 2 strikes, Corey. 1 strike, Richard.
Kevin Youkilis.
Not Kevin Youkilis. So this is, you're all down to your final strike.
2007. Top 5 voting. Maybe it's an NL player. I keep thinking AL. Maybe it's an NL player. Oh man.
2007. MVP top 5.
The 2 World Series is what's throwing me off here.
Yeah.
2 other teams.
I forgot what other teams he played with, but I want to say Matt Holliday.
It's not Matt Holliday, Corey Favs.
That's a good guess.
You're right. That is a good guess. It does fit definitely some of this.
Lance Berkman.
It's not Sir Lancelot. So Joe, it is down to you.
Wow, we might have a K out here. I might be looking at 18 strikeouts.
Mike Lowell.
Wow. And Joe gets it with Mike Lowell.
Hold it out.
Oh!
Red Sox and Marlins.
Mike
Pop.
Lowell.
It's a good job that Joe looked up that answer. Probably looked up some stuff there. So good job cheating, Joe.
I forgot he was even a Yankee
tonight.
You could also peek
forgot
into
he was
this
a Yankee.
chat right here. I mean, there's obviously no proof, but good job for everybody. Mike Lowell. Yes, Marlins and Red Sox World Series champion.
I was gonna say he beat the Yankees in the World Series once. Yeah, he played like 5 games for the Yankees. It's known as one of the worst Yankee trades because they traded him away to get, I'm blanking on who, but someone that didn't have a lot of an impact. A lot of sliding door stuff there though, because they traded him away. That's how they end up with Aaron Boone, and then Aaron Boone tears his knee, and that's how they end up with A-Rod. So
point for Joe, point for Corey. Good job.
asterisk
guys.
point for Joe for cheating.
Well, there's no proof. There's no proof.
Come on.
Joe
We
gets-
have respect. We have honor in this.
We
Some
play
of us do.
respectful
Games.
games
Some of us
here
do.
on the show. Okay, just a reminder.
If I
Hey,
cheated, I would have gotten Corey's.
this was the bit we were
Would've
supposed
been more
to do
obvious.
a few weeks ago, and we didn't have everybody in tow. So we're gonna make sure that next Monday will be our day for the ballpark food draft.
fun
Calling
episode.
it back to the draft bit that we did about a few months ago with the all-time New York baseball teams. But we're just having fun now. We're going to talk food. What's your first draft pick when it comes to your ultimate food menu for at the stadium? What's your favorite version of hot dog? You a Dodger dog guy? You a Fenway Frank guy? Do you think both are overrated like me? We'll talk more about it next week. And of course, just a reminder, Jim Leyritz, 1996, 1999 World Series champion with the Yankees, will be joining us as our At the Plate guest. That is going to be on Monday, July 1st at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. So make sure to mark your calendars if you haven't already. And also, once we conclude this stream, head on over to X, formerly known as Twitter, for a return of our space known as Extra Innings. See the X there? No E, huh? Get it? With our new co-host added to the program and officially to the Empire State of Baseball team. She's in the chat right now. Shout out to Sierra Poteet. She and I will be holding it down on the ESB space, and hopefully we see either Corey, Faz, Joe, or Tom join us later on tonight. But make sure to join us over on X, where we're going to continue the conversation, talk about some of the things we covered and go in game with the Yankees and Royals currently right now. And that is ESB Extra Innings. But let's send it around the room for some thank yous. Off to Tom this time. We'll go Tom, Joe, Corey, and I'll wrap it up.
Yeah, let's God, you always start with me, and then I never think of the thank yous. So I will thank Corey and Joe for making it back this week.
I love it. Joe?
No,
Is
thank
Joe
you
muted?
guys for being here. And am I muted?
Nope, now
No,
you're
you're
good.
good.
And
You're good.
Joe's gone.
No, just thank you. I also thank the fact that all the New York teams are out of the playoffs now, so everybody can watch us instead of watching them. So thank you for that.
I want to thank Anthony for joining us earlier and the weather gods for just a perfect stretch of weather last week and this week.
Yes, sir.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you to all 97 of you here in our chat, participating here on YouTube, on X, on Instagram. We appreciate you. We thank you. And again, another special shout out to Anthony Rivera as well for joining us here on Empire State of Baseball. But that'll be it for our show. We will see you here next week for the ballpark food draft. It's going to be a lot of fun. Take care.